This is Paul Anderson again with our second video tutorial. This one is using Logger Pro, and I already have a video that I've downloaded on my desktop, and so I'm just going to open Logger Pro. Once you get the program itself open, you're going to do an insert of that movie that we have. So I'm just going to click on the insert, and I'm going to look on my desktop for that video, and this is the one that I'm looking for. And I go ahead and say open. So if this is your first time ever kind of looking at Logger Pro from this point of view, you kind of have a number of windows. The first one, of course, is our video. This window over here is where we're going to be plotting our points. And there's a data table that's just behind my video there, but that's where our data is also going to be collected. Now, I tend to always want to make these as big as possible, so I'm going to expand out my window from my video, and then this little red three dots here are the tool or my tool palette for plotting my points. I am going to advance my video to where I see the rock bottom plunge car coming up to the top. Okay, and these are my advance by 1 frame time. And now I'm just going to start plotting some points. So here's my points. Add a point. I'm going to put a point on my, let's see, let's choose the side of my car right below that opening. And I'm just going to keep clicking. And as you click, you can see that you're starting to plot the points. Now, you do want to always try to plot the points in the same spot all the time. If you don't get each point in the same spot, that's what's going to cause us to have some differences with our graphs at some point. So I'm just going along. And in this task, we're going to try to look at our differences in our energy. So at the top of my roller coaster ride, I should have some gravitational potential energy. I should have some kinetic energy. And then when we get down to the bottom, we should have just some kinetic energy. And as long as we're keeping the frame of reference of the platform here for the Ferris wheel as our height equals 0. Alright, so we're almost done plotting our points. This is kind of the most tedious task, and from a student's point of view, all they have to do is just make sure that they're adding those points. Okay, and we're going to get kind of to the point where we're almost equal to that height. There we go, that's pretty good there. Other tools that we like to use this tool. This is the one that sets our origin. I generally always pick my first point as the place to put my origin. The other tool that I like to use is the set the scale. And I'm going to set the scale based on the actual car. So I'm going to back up my video so I can see a nice profile of the car. Okay, and I'm just going to click and drag, and you should see that green line will pop up, and then it'll ask us what that distance is. So this is my scaling distance for my graph. I believe that that is about 2.5 meters. So I'm just going to type in 2.5 and say OK. And now I have everything plotted. The last thing that I like to do with this graph, or with this video before I get done here, is I'm going to go under the Options menu down to Movie Options, and I'm going to select First VA Point Defines Movie Time 0. That just sets that first point for me so that I can, at the origin of my graph. When I go ahead now, I'm going to go Page Auto Arrange. That's going to rearrange my graph so I can see all of my windows at one time. The graph is a position versus time graph currently. The blue dots represent the Y position, where the red dots represent the X position. And then I can go through and I can do some analysis of the slope. Now there's a tool up here that's called the tangent tool. And so that's going to actually calculate or show me the slope at various points on my graphs. Now if you look right here at the very top, you see my blue dots are almost flat. So that means that I have zero speed in the Y direction. But I do have a slope in the X direction, and it shows me to have about 8 meters per second for my slope there. And then as I continue along, you can see that my X position flattens out. So in other words, we're into our drop. And you can see that my velocity now is going along at about almost 10 meters per second. So now I have my velocities through there. In fact, there towards the end, you can see that we actually must have been coming up through that curve again. So we're actually slowing down a little bit in the Y direction. That's kind of a useful tool. And if I want, I can also look at graphs for the actual velocities. So I'll do a velocity in the Y direction, and there you can actually see then the slope tool gives us our acceleration. So those are my useful tools. Again, if we look at it at the top, we should have some potential energy up here, we should have some kinetic energy up here, and that should be equal to kind of the potential, or excuse me, the kinetic energy at this point down here. What we're probably going to miss is the amount of work done by friction on the car and the track. So in other words, there's probably some loss in that energy between those 2 points. And that'll be a good way to kind of have a point of discussion of why is this height not coming out to be the right height. Anyways, good luck with this one, and we'll see you in the next tutorial.